Ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow! So I've got this perpetual wink. Oh, pardon, Governor Palin. I thought I was speaking to Kristen. Okay. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Hold on, Governor Palin. We're going to start a discussion in just a moment. Welcome to Basil BuddhaCat Presents. My name is David Stevenson. I'm Basil's co-host and interpreter. And in center slot, of course, Basil BuddhaCat. And with us for a second show, a Sunday morning show, where we can talk about things more of a religious nature, we have former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. And I think it's important to note as we begin our discussion that Basil wanted the Sunday morning 10:30 a.m. time slot for many reasons, but most importantly, because Basil considers himself, as I do, Basil considers himself to be a devout Christian religiously, and he considers himself to be a Buddhist philosophically, as I do also. Basil wanted to lend the discussion a little bit of a religious tone on the Sunday morning show, getting back together with our Friday evening guest, Friday evening 7 p.m. guest from 2 days earlier. And Basil wanted to get into all things religious. Now, we have with us Governor Palin. And Governor Palin, Basil and I have talked with some of our previous guests on the Sunday morning segments about how, in fact, Basil believes that that a lot of folks that call themselves, in some cases, evangelicals, although Basil has noted that a lot of evangelicals do, in fact, follow the teachings of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and do, in fact, do good and focus on behavioral things and taking care of the poor and needy. We're up? Oh, okay. That's it. We just have to do another one another time. Okay. Oh, that was the first show? Okay, we're doing the second show actually now. That's all right. Little technical glitch here. But Basil was speaking about how he believes that evangelicals are somewhat divided in terms of their behavior and whether their role here on earth is to take care of the poor and things of that nature, or whether their role here on earth is that of wealth building and other things which more people that call themselves fundamentalist Christians and people that call themselves conservative Christians seem much more in tune with. And those are the people that Basil takes exception with. He says that in fact the Christians' role. Okay, I want to get this absolutely right. I've got you. I'm listening to you, Governor Palin, but I'm also listening to Basil, so it's important that you hold on for a second, please. Basil says the role of the Christian in society, which has never, in fact, really changed, is to take care of the poor, to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, the many important lessons that he taught us, that, in fact, Basil believes in his heart that if Jesus were here today, Jesus would be with the folks on Wall Street and in the other Occupy movements. He'd be there supporting them. He'd be supporting not only the poor, but the increasing numbers of poor worldwide. He'd also be, in America, he'd be on the side of middle-class people that more and more of them, as each day passes, more and more of them have joined the ranks of the poor. So, okay, you and I are just going to have to disagree on that. But let's move on with a discussion about religion in general. Okay, hold on, Governor Palin. We've got a call coming in. Hold on. Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Okay, it is. We've got Newt Gingrich on again, and the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Newt Gingrich. And okay, go ahead. Okay, Newt wants to remind us that he's the real Christian in this race. That he, in fact, he's the real Christian above and beyond Mr. Santorum. Certainly, miles and miles above former Governor Mitt Romney, who he says is pretty much a liberal Yankee atheist. Well, okay. Mr. Gingrich, well, I've got you on the phone. I'm not sure if we've completely finished our discussion about your relationship, your overlapping relationships with your three wives. Of course, Callista's your wife now, but and she's on the campaign trail. Oh, he hung up. Okay. Okay, so let's continue the discussion about the role of Christians not only in politics but also in everyday life. Governor Palin. Okay, hold on. Basil's asking me to pass along that Jesus never carried any kind of a weapon. Knife, slingshot, nope. That he in fact taught his disciples, as well as other folks that he talked to during his life, he taught them to be, in fact, to be pacifists, to not fight back against the hand of oppression from the Romans. In fact, yeah, that's a good quote to bring to the table, Basil. Jesus spoke about render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. And of course, that's one of the great misinterpreted and overinterpreted statements about life. But Governor Palin says, "And how?" Okay, but I'm going to continue on. Basil, correct me if I need to be corrected about this. Basil's saying that you don't strike back against the hand that oppresses you. You do as another of Basil's great heroes in history, Mohandas Gandhi. You perform things like take part in things like sit-down strikes. You just basically say no and let the court of public opinion take care of those that are in charge of you. Now Basil, we were doing the crossword puzzle when we were on my show, and you made a mention to the side about how when we were doing the crossword puzzle, and one of the clues was Indian Raj, and of course the answer was rule. You've done some studying on this. You've done some scholarly works not only on Christianity but also on the teachings of Gandhi. Would you compare the teachings of Gandhi to the teachings of Jesus, to the teachings of the Dalai Lama, if you will? Because as you and I are both Buddhists philosophically. Okay, Basil's saying. Okay, Basil's thinking, and I know he's thinking because there go those whiskers. Okay, he's sort of half closed his eyes for a second there too, so I know he's doing his best means of thinking by doing that. The eyes half closed. Okay, they're back a little bit open again. Okay, Basil says that the teachings of Jesus Christ, the teachings of Mohandas Gandhi, and the teachings of the Dalai Lama, not just the current Dalai Lama, but all the Dalai Lamas throughout history, and this is the current one is the 14th high priest of Buddhism, the current Dalai Lama. Basil says you couldn't put a whisker in between the teachings of the three of them. In fact, they all are very much in tune with one another, although in different times and points in history. But okay, Basil also wants to note that, in fact, through his scholarly works, he has been convinced that, in fact, during some of those years in the life of Jesus that are unaccounted for, that during those years, Jesus, in fact, may have gone. In fact, Basil believes he did. Went eastbound from what we now call the Holy Land, but he went eastbound, and in fact studied Buddhism. And he thinks that a lot of what we hear and see in Jesus Christ's teachings are derivative of what he learned in the Eastern world, along with the Buddhists. Now, Basil, it's also been noted that, and it's actually Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church talks about Jesus showing up in in what's called the New World, in North America and in the Americas, and having visited here, and also, and there are indications in not just Asian Indian teachings, but also in Native American teachings about a visit from Jesus, and him having passed along some of his knowledge to them. Have you thought about this? Have you studied this? Do you believe that perhaps that Basil that Jesus may have actually visited and have? Basil says he sees no evidence of it yet, but he's still studying that, and he believes that it's very possible. He won't commit to that, but and Basil's pretty quick at committing to beliefs and to things. When he's certain about something, he generally doesn't go back on that. He sticks with it. He doesn't think things through lightly. He thinks things through in almost a ponderous fashion, and in fact will tell us he's okay. He's saying that absolutely that it's fair to say, and he won't disagree with anyone who believes that Jesus Christ visited North America and taught a lot of fine things to the people that we know as Native Americans. Okay, hold on. Now, Governor Palin, you wanted to weigh in on that? She says it's the most ridiculous thing she's ever heard. That, she says, now, I've heard you say in the past that you're concerned about people wanting to portray Jesus in images as being dark-skinned, when in fact the people of the Middle East, the Aramaic people, are absolutely were darker skinned than the fair-haired, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus that seems to have found his way into the King James Bible. She's saying it's not important. It's not important how you portray Jesus. That you can portray him any way you want. It's all irrelevant. But she chooses to portray him in that fashion, as being lighter-haired, blue eyes, kind of an English gent, no. Now, she's chiding me because those are my words. I'm interpreting what she's saying, and it sounds like she's saying kind of an English gent kind of look about him. And Governor Palin, we're going to just have to disagree on that a little bit, but let's go on and okay, hold on, okay. Basil BuddhaCat presents. Oh, Basil, it's Juanita from Obama Romney. Okay, Juanita is the tour manager for a group that Basil's wanted to get on the show, and they'll be on soon. He promises. He's in discussion with Juanita. Juanita, we don't want to continue discussions about it so much, on air. But if you have something to add to the conversation, we'll take that as it is, and we're happy to hear it. Okay, Juanita says that that she's beginning to rethink her position about Obama and or Romney being unworthy of support when she hears discussions with folks like former Governor Palin, former Speaker of the House Gingrich, former Senator Rick Santorum, former Governor Rick Perry, and right on down the line. Now, Juanita, you've mentioned in the past, at least Basil says you have, that you did. Okay, yeah, Basil says he knows where I'm going with this, and yes, he did. That you along with Basil and myself have some definite camaraderie with Congressman Newt Gingrich, not Newt Gingrich, Congressman Ron Paul, about some of the things like U.S. involvement in foreign countries. Juanita, would you take Congressman Paul over either the candidates that you're spoofing in your group, in your musical group, Obama, Romney? Would you feel more comfortable with Congressman Newt Gingrich? No, again, I did it again. Okay, thank you for correcting me. Congressman Ron Paul. Would you feel more comfortable with Congressman Ron Paul than either of the two presumed candidates? Of course, on the Democratic side, President Barack Obama, and on the Republican side, former Governor Mitt Romney. Okay, she says, if only he didn't have that son of his trailing behind him and seemingly hawking him and trailing him, if you will. Are you speaking about Ron Paul's son, Rand? Oh, yes, she says, absolutely. Says, Rand Paul is very distasteful to her. He seems to be much more corporate Republican than Ron Paul, much more neoconservative than Ron Paul, much more willing to do the kinds of things even that Ron Paul says he's expressly against, and that's nation building and having U.S. troops be the watchdog and the policeman of the world. Okay, hold on, Juanita. I'm going to put you on hold for a second because Basil wants to weigh in on that. Yes, Basil. Basil says that it's not completely fair to it's not completely fair to be critical of Ron Paul for his son, because he says sometimes the I think the phrase that we normally use, Basil, is the acorn doesn't always fall far from the tree, or doesn't often fall far from the tree. Basil says the way he knows it, and the way we sure ought to get used to saying it, is the whisker doesn't fall far from the cat. Okay, well that's I guess we'll have to learn that one. Along with he says, you folks ought to also learn to speak Catanese, so he doesn't have to have this this big lummox. Hey, all righty. He's laughing. He's jesting. He says, so he doesn't have to have this big lummox here doing the interpreting for him, and so Basil can actually run this show and do the honors and not have to worry about it. That way, Basil says, that way he actually could have two guests on, and he could referee what might be an actual physical slugfest that we've only seen in terms of words so far through the campaign. Okay, Basil says that he would like that if all of you would learn to speak Catanese, and that could become the new Esperanto. He says that they could unite cats, people, and not dogs. Basil, why couldn't dogs? He says no. He says, he just cut me right off. He says, no, no dogs. Dogs. He's known many dogs throughout his life, many fine dogs, very, very good dogs, dogs that he's found camaraderie with and enjoyed being with. But sorry, but when it comes to speaking the language that Basil has devised, Cantonese, which is certainly a derivative of it's a parallel language to Cantonese, and Cantonese being the more countrified dialect of China. The mainstream dialect of the Chinese is in fact Mandarin. That's the official government, official Communist Party language. And Basil says that he would be much happier if we all learned his language, so he didn't have to go through these trials and tribulations of having an interpreter. And look at that. Former Governor Sarah Palin winked. What? Basil says she's been in a frozen position of winking ever since she became governor. She says she seems to have maybe used a little too much eyeliner and mascara, and it's kind of congealed together and forced that eye down into a permanently closed position. Okay, yeah, well, possibility. But at any rate, so, hold on. Yes, Governor Palin? Okay. I'll pass that along to Basil. Governor Palin says she's been here too long already, but she's just being polite to you now. But she's going to find some feline mascara, and she's going to show you a thing or two with that. Okay. There goes Basil's whiskers are twitching. Okay. Thanks, Governor Palin. We're gonna have to break away right now. Okay, hold on. She says she just wants to say one more thing. She wants to say that she's enjoyed being on the show. She always enjoys being in the public eye, and she still thinks that she might be the one that ends up being the candidate at the convention, based on a stalemate between the candidates that are currently in the race. Okay, Governor Palin, and we're going to... Okay, hold on. Okay, we're going to sign off with you, Governor Palin. We have another phone call coming in. We're going to take it. Basil BuddhaCat presents. Okay, it's Estee Lauder. Okay. Estee Lauder says that it's physically impossible to get those materials that women put on their eyelashes or use as eyeliner. It's impossible to get them stuck together as badly as she sees former Governor Palin right now. She says that's got to be a voluntary wink, or perhaps even an involuntary twitch. And Basil says he knows what a twitch is, and he's inclined to agree with you, Estee. But that's definitely got nothing to do with any misuse of eyelash extender, eyeliner, or anything of a sort that a woman might use, or Alice Cooper. Okay, thanks very much, Estee. I appreciate you calling in. Okay, we're going to have to break it off there. In fact, we're going to go. This has been our Sunday morning show, and this has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. And what say you, Basil? Take one more? Basil says, sure, why not? Nobody's watching anyway. Shh. Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Okay, Basil, this is... okay, thank you very much. I'm sure Basil will be happy to hear that. Basil says, Basil, your contract has been extended, and you're good to go for at least another 6 episodes. Well, that's pretty good. Okay. Basil says, and he shrugged his shoulders. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for calling in, and this has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson, Basil's co-host. Basil BuddhaCat in the center slot, and for our Friday night show and this morning's Sunday show, former Governor Sarah Palin. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, on Wall Street. Fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street. And Pharma Oil and their pet fox don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, on Wall Street. Meow.